All right, so first off, I've got my jars here. I have 11. So my husband's going to go see if he can find me another one so that I can have 6 for each classroom, because we have 2 art classrooms. And then I have paints. So different colors of tempera paints here. And then I've got random kitchen things that I'm taking to mix as additives. So I've got powdered sugar. I wanted granulated sugar, but we ran out. Olive oil, cornstarch, salt, and flour. So we're gonna do some science experiments. No, we're just gonna mix things into paint. All right, let's go. So we are using the Discovering Great Artists curriculum for this to come up with our lesson plan. So she mixed different textures into her paints and got a really thick quality to her paints, very expressive strokes. So we are going to be doing that. So we have added red paint to our first 2 jars. I have added flour to the red, and now I'm going to mix it in. I have mixed my first one up, and you can see it is like super thick and chunky. And I'll do the same to the other one. And I added about, I think like 1/4 of a cup into this, and I just keep mixing and mixing and mixing until it's consistent. Now I am moving on to yellow. For the yellow, I am adding in a bunch of coarse rock salt. So I have mixed that in, and it's still super watery, but you do have these like crystals of salt in there. So that's kind of interesting. We are moving on to blue. I have mixed those down, and I kept adding a lot of powdered sugar to it to try to get a more interesting texture. So I think I've achieved something. I'm a little worried that it'll be too similar to the flour, but we'll see how it goes. Moving on to a dark blue color, we're going to add eggshells. For orange, we're going kind of a different route. We're going to add olive oil and thin it out. So on the right here, this is not mixed in yet. The olive oil is still sitting on top. On the left here, I've mixed it in, and you can see it's very thin. I do think that over time, this is going to separate back out to this, so it might be a salad dressing shake it up situation. For purple, we are adding some like old sprinkles that I found just to give a different texture. So I have all of my paints out, and I have a little mat board, and I just took a paint marker or a Sharpie or whatever you want to use. I drew out a basic drawing, and now we're going to play around with the paint. The first color I experimented with was the blue, and I just kind of put some on. Nothing wildly interesting. There were definitely parts that were thicker and then parts that were thinner, and you got a little bit of interesting texture there. Next, I used the red, which I believe was the flour additive, and I used it to color in the petals, and you can see it gets pretty thick in comparison to the blue, which was very thin. Next, I took our very runny yellow and just kind of went over some things. I went over the blue that I had put on the grass, and now it comes out green, so that was fun. I still had some red on my paintbrush, so I am suggesting that you leave a paintbrush in each jar and the kids paint with that color with that brush so that they're not mixing the paint, because I use the same brush because I'm lazy. And I got a little bit of orange on my son, which is fine. I actually think it looks just fine, but that's the yellow. Next, I played with the orange, and it was actually surprisingly thick. This was the one that had olive oil on it. And I was surprised at, look how thick that came out. So that was kind of fun. I've now gone in with the purple, which is what we added, the like little pearls of, it's like a sprinkle or something in there. And it actually gives a pretty cool texture. You've got these little pearls that come out. And finally, I went in with the blue, which had the eggshell. It was kind of a weird texture because it was like fresh off an egg. So it had like kind of the skinny part of the egg as well on it. And that actually came out kind of thick and gloopy, but not a lot of like shell in there. So that was a little bit different than I expected it to be. But anyways, that's playing around with the paint textures. So you don't have to have a little drawing to fill in. They can honestly just do swatches of different textures and just feel how the different paints feel different. And that is kind of what I originally envisioned for this, rather than actually drawing something. But, you know, if you want, take a marker, draw out a quick little thing, they can fill it in.